You're watching and listening to The Daily Living Show with D. Elias.
Thank you for tuning in to Daily Living. And today with me, I have Billy Joe Rogers, and he's here from Mena. First, thank you, Billy Joe, for coming in.
You're most welcome.
I want to start. You and your dad had a special relationship, and you really looked up to him. Tell me about your dad.
I've been more into my stepdad.
Okay.
My stepdad, his father actually did visualization therapy. They grew up in the redwoods of California, out in the middle of nowhere, a very large family. So they grew up in basically a meditation. They did meditation groups. I remember my stepdad telling me a story that the first thing him and his brothers and sisters ever levitated was their kitchen table and chairs. He said the easy part was getting it up, the hard part was getting it to go back down. But I grew up seeing visualization.
So you actually saw that.
And seeing energy work and knowing that things like that were possible. And that, I think it was from 8th grade on, and my ex-father-in-law, it would be my stepdad, he did just hands-on work, and he would do simple things like with swelling, just imagine like a faucet or something, pouring out the extra water, just little things. So I grew up knowing that these things were possible, feasible. And like where most kids go to Sunday school and learn about religion, we would go to his house and he would read us out of energy books and more on just how people traveled in with just their energy into shamanism, just different ways of culture, but more onto energetics and just more into just believing how just it was all just possible. So that it helped me know that anything is possible. I mean, instead of building these barriers up to know that we have limitations in with what we do.
Right. So at what point in your life did you realize that you could have those abilities as well?
I remember when I was 14, I went to a seminar, and the lady that was teaching it asked me, she said, well, what do you want to do when you get older? And I said, I want to be able to touch people and heal them. The Bible says that we can do anything that Jesus did, if not better, for we're all his brothers. And he was able to touch people and heal them. So that's honestly what I wanted to do. So then I started studying and doing everything I could to try to get to that point in my life where I was actually able to help people. And then just the knowing that it was all possible. My whole life, childhood, I remember I got a twin sister, and she'd come in, and my mom didn't ever put us down because kids see things. So we'd come in and my sister would be like, oh, I saw this angel or something. And instead of my mom being like, oh, that's not real, that doesn't exist, and then we put walls up, she would have us describe it to her and go into detail and feed our imagination. So, I mean, we were never brought up to believe that there were limitations, which made it think that you could do anything with your life. So at that age, if I believed I could grow up to touch people and heal them, then that's what I wanted to do when I got older.
You know, in the Bible, and a lot of people, that's why there's different religions, because people can read the Bible and get different things from it. But a lot of people think that the healing powers that Jesus had was Reiki.
And I would almost go into that. And the reason I say that is because I know when I took my Reiki into the heritage of Reiki, when you're learning about it, a preacher actually is what was led to the symbols and everything that we use, and it is a all-knowing healing energy that comes from above. And what even got him into that prayer and to learn about it was because somebody asked him, why don't you go home and heal my I think it was his brother, and he's like, well, we don't do that. And it's just like, well, you just gave this whole sermon about how people would put hands on and heal.
Right.
And that was your whole sermon, and now you're telling me that y'all just don't practice that no more? And it really got the guy. So I would really believe it, because it is a hands-on energy.
Absolutely.
I mean, and we're all as it says, we're all his brother, and we can do what he did, if not better. And we all have a Father above. And so,
right.
He definitely put us here to be able to help and heal ourselves and take care of ourselves.
Right. At what age did you learn Reiki?
I believe it was probably around 15. That's when I got into my first Reiki degree and started studying into the Reiki energy work. I'd started working with visualization prior to learning Reiki. And then and then the basis of all my energy work has always been Reiki. What I love about Reiki is because you can't wrongfully use it.
Right.
It only is there to help people. It only does good, and which I really like, because being trapped in this human body, I really don't have control over my thoughts all the
Right.
time. And most people, our thoughts aren't exactly positive. So when I would be working on somebody, I sure wouldn't want my negativity or my
Right.
thought process going into who I was trying to help.
Right.
So I really love that about Reiki, because it took me out of the picture. I became more of just a tool.
Right.
Just a tool to help the Lord above heal the person that I was trying to work on.
When you say visualization, is that before Reiki? Do you just try to visualize the wellness?
When I first got exposed to visualization, it was in a large group. My twin sister, was actually the one that saw things. She was the one that would see things, energy formats around people. She actually saw everything, and I more or less just had the energy to make sure. I was kind of like her bodyguard, you might say. I
Right.
stood back and just made sure she was safe. And then we were 16, and she probably saved the kid's life, but it terrified my sister, and she just never got back into energy work after that, where I continued my progress on through life. But it really almost probably hindered her. But that's what, I mean, it got into the visualization, and for the longest time with my visualization, I was always afraid that it was my imagination. I mean,
Right.
is this truly what's going on, or is this just my imagination? I mean, because it's in here is what we're
Right.
seeing. And
I had and I think I told you this, but I don't know if this is like a visual, but in 2001, I couldn't get my dad to answer the phone. So he lived 35 miles north of me, and he lived alone. He was single. I had a terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. Something was wrong. And I drove down there trying to call with every mile and no answer. And I went in and I found him lying on the bathroom floor. He had died throughout the night of a massive heart attack. I had nightmares for months and months and months. I never got over it. And then one night, my dad always liked to grill, drink beer, grill outside, And one night, I had this dream that we were sitting under the shade tree grilling, and everybody that was always there, I could see them, and I could hear everybody talking, and I could hear Daddy talking, but I couldn't see him. And finally, I said, Daddy, I can hear you, but why can't I see you? And he said, I might not be there, but I'm always with you, and know that I will always be with you. From that point on, I never had any more nightmares. It's like he reached out to me, soothed my fears, made me feel better, and then my nightmares went away.
that was that inner part of you letting you know, and it actually was him probably talking to you. That's why I always say when we lose a loved one, it's almost like having your own guardian angel in heaven.
Right.
Because you still have that connection. When we come into this world, we're still connected to our Father, our Creator.
Right.
But as we get older, we lose that bond. Now, when we lose a loved ones, that's still just right here. We still
Right.
have that. And it would have been your intuition to telling you that something was wrong. As I tell my preachers, the closest we'll ever find our Creator's within our own heart. The hard part's just being quiet and listening.
Yeah.
But when it's something like that, that voice is so loud that there is no blocking it out.
Right.
We call it our gut feeling, our intuition, or whatever. But most of the time, we even second guess it. We talk ourselves out of it. Very rarely do we even listen to that little gut feeling in
Right.
there. But that would have been your Father's way of telling you that he was all right.
Right.
The reason that you couldn't see him, I can actually answer that for you. When we cross over, it's like people when they see spirits in their houses or anything. If you see a body standing there just like me and you, then that's still where they're actually here. Now, if it's more of like a cloud, like a ghost symbol or something, you know it's
silhouette.
yes,
Yeah.
it's the perfect word, silhouette. And I mean, sometimes you can even see their face, but you know who it is,
Right.
even though then that's where they're already crossed over because they're no longer in this physical body. Their
Right.
spirit's actually out there, and that's how you know that he's safe and that everything's okay.
Right.
That he has actually made it home.
Right. And that's a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very calming for me to know that.
I mean, we spend our whole lives trying to get back home.
Right, right. So you are an emotional healer.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
I got lucky. My mom used to say I carried a black cloud around with me. I was a manic depressant. I fought depression my entire life. The reason I say that was a blessing because I would never be able to help somebody going through emotional trauma if I hadn't been there myself.
Right.
If it wouldn't have been such a strive to try to figure out a way to make me happy, so that way I enjoyed myself, learned to love myself, then I would have never been able to help other people. I would have just been, I would have stayed exactly where I was at, doing exactly what I was doing. I wouldn't have had that drive to
Right.
keep. But honestly, I felt like most of my life, I felt like I was living a lie because I preached happiness, I preached joy, but inside I just didn't feel it.
Right.
It wasn't there. I still felt unloved. I still felt appreciated, unwanted. Most things that all of us feel. So then I had to figure out a way to fix myself,
Right.
which in turn gave me the necessary skills that I need to help other people. Because I've honestly always said before, if you've not been there yourself, then you can never help somebody else going through it. So now, the older I get, the more I realize that those 20 years I had of battling depression, even though I was still working on people, and that's why the only thing that kept me going was making other people's lives better.
Absolutely.
I mean, it gave me a purpose. I mean, because I got to help people. But inside, I still felt like I was dying. And I know now that that was a blessing. I mean, because that's actually turned me into the person I am today.
Right. And you've overcome the depression.
Yes, ma'am. One day at a time.
Absolutely. There's just so many abilities, for the lack of a better word, that you have. And I'm probably not understanding all of them either, but I know one of the things that you can do is cleanse homes
Yes, ma'am.
of people that have passed away but have not yet crossed over.
Yes, ma'am. That was actually my initial training. I actually graduated into the healthcare later on in life. My initial training, and I started doing houses, clearing people, curses, spells, spirits, things like that at like the age of 14. You go back generations, well, like the Aztecs and things like that, they put curses on all their minds.
Right.
The Indians still used magic, medicine. I mean, well, just because it's been 1,000 years or 100 years doesn't mean that medicine and magic's any less effective than it was back then. And it still has to be cleared. And same with houses and stuff. I think the best I ever heard it put, a preacher man actually said it, and it was the best service I ever attended to. It was on how we have a war going on between light and dark out there. And he said, true. He said, I believe more than anything that God cast the demons into the swines, and the swines ran into the ocean and drowned. He said, well, what do you think happened when the pig died? He said the spirits got back out and went and bothered somebody else.
Right.
For centuries, every religion, every culture out there admitted and practiced clearing demons, possessions from people, and all of a sudden, one day it was like we just got them all. Well, I mean, not one culture ever practiced past sending them on. We cleared spaces. We pushed them
Right.
out. Even into the Indians and stuff, we're using sage. All we do is clear our space, but we don't ever actually send the spirit on. So then they never go anywhere until somebody actually figures out the trauma, what's holding them here,
Right.
to get them. And there's so many different things that actually can lock a spirit here, which actually it helps because of the visualization and just the lifetime of things to figure out the cause of what's keeping it there. Because until it's actually cleared, then most spirits you deal with today are actually into more of like thought forms. Our thoughts create. Our thought waves are no different than a radio wave or a TV wave. I mean, we send literally vibrations out. Well, when you take and you dwell on somebody negative, say somebody upsets you,
All right.
and you spend months creating and dwelling with all this anger,
Absolutely.
and then all of a sudden you get over it, well, all that thought energy is still there. It doesn't go away.
Right.
So then it literally forms its own little energy mass, and the only thing it knows is all the anger and hate that it was programmed to be. It's...
And it's such a waste.
It really is. It's a waste of our time, our
Right.
life. I mean, we honestly spend, and what's sad though is like I get into generational curses, even into the Bible. It talks about the sins of our forefathers and generational curses and things that we inherited from our parents. And I actually had to figure out a way to work on that before I could ever actually truly like the person living within me. Because there was still that little voice in there that you don't deserve to be happy, or you don't deserve this. And if I had self-control, and then I probably could overcome it. A lot of people will actually have you put nice notes up around your house and read good positive thoughts to yourself. Well, that would be awesome if you can do it for 30 to 90 days.
Right.
But let's be realistic. Most people, you read it for 1 or 2 weeks, if that. And then all of a sudden you walk by and that little voice in your head starts cussing at you, and you take the bottle.
It's like there's a little devil sitting.
And there really is.
Right.
And it's within all of us. And that gets into our conditioning. Just what we're brought up to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the worst things, I found is in our whole lives we're taught not to be selfish, to always to do unto others first. Well, when we always put everybody else before ourselves, when are we ever going to feel loved?
Yes.
And then if we ever do take the time to love us, we feel like we're sinning.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fault.
Right.
We should be doing that for somebody else. And I think what helped me more than anything is that old saying, our cup runneth over. Well, most people, including myself, when I hear that, and we say it in our prayer and everything, our cup runneth over, we picture a wine goblet on the table running over with wine, soaking our dinner cloth. How is that supposed to help us?
Right.
What I started looking at it is me being that cup.
Yeah.
And until I took the time to fill my cup up with joy, love, happiness, whatever I was trying to give out to my family and friends, then of course I didn't have anything else to give out. I was empty.
Right.
But once I realized that and filled me up and overflowed, then it was amazing how much I was able to help the people around me.
Once you help yourself, then you radiate that.
Because without us, then, their life goes on.
Right.
Our life stops.
Mm-hmm.
We base our entire lives on the people around us. But in all actuality, we are the most important person in our life.
And once you do that, you're not doing yourself any good, nor your family or friends.
No.
Anyone around you.
At all. Because then we're empty all the time. I remember a lifetime. My whole life, my mom would be like, well, if I knew this was going to be your attitude, I wouldn't have came to ask you to help anyway. And of course, I'd be all pissy and cranky. But inside, I'm wondering, well, when is anybody going to take the time to come help Billy Joe?
Right.
But once I started taking the time to help me, then it was amazing how I wanted to go help people. And I was actually happy and enthusiastic about being it instead of just being my normal, crabby, cranky self.
It's like when I was little, I never said I'm bored because the next thing I know, I've got a weed eater in my hand.
Yeah, you got something to do. It's like, oh, you're bored here. So you find stuff to go constructively do.
Speaking of that, I have learned something. I call it GARD, G-A-R-D, and I start my every day of every morning. I just sit down and clear no gossip, no anger, no resentment, and no drama in my life. And so if anybody has brought drama or anything into my life, I block them on my cell phone, Facebook, whatever. No. I'm happier right now than I've probably been in 15 years.
I love it.
It has just helped me more than anything. Because I'm going forward from this point on.
Yes.
I'm not looking back. I don't care what happened 20 years ago. I could care less.
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things for any of us to do, and we all preach about it. We all tell people, turn it over, let it go. But it's very difficult and impossible to do that.
Right.
And but we have to.
Yes.
We literally have to turn yesterday's drama over, or we miss out on today.
And it has made me a truly better person.
Yes.
And now I feel like I can help others because I'm not carrying any bad luggage. I dropped it off and it's gone. It's over.
It opens up the path in front of you. It's like,
Yes.
okay, God, here I am. Use me. I mean, what is it that,
Right.
and it helps because when we have all that baggage, that weight of just everybody else is just,
Right.
of course we can't get nowhere. We're overloaded with life.
Right.
And
you're spinning your wheels.
Yep, not going nowhere.
Absolutely. Gosh, what else do you do?
Where to start? Let's see here.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on, because I felt like this was just most interesting, when we were talking a while ago about clearing homes and stuff, you don't actually have to go to that home, because I know just the other day you cleared a home in Pennsylvania.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're in Arkansas.
It's actually easier for me not to. I used to do home visits because it was a lot easier for the homeowners to believe that you actually helped their house
Right.
if you showed up to their house.
Right.
But even when I would do that, I would start clearing the space when I would leave my space. To walk into it, if you truly have, let's say, a haunted house, okay? Well, most of the time, those spirits have been there for a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is their house. And it might not even be your homestead. You figure way back when, it wasn't nothing to have 100, 150 acres, 300-acre homesteads. Well, now you might have several houses that are actually on that one person's land, and that person
Right.
still believes you're intruding in their space.
Absolutely.
So coming to their house, you're not going to be able to find the true cause anyway. But if you walk into that spirit's house, it owns that house. So then it messes with everything you see. It messes with everything you hear. And it is very, very difficult to truly get what you need done if you are in its
Right.
space. So I found from years ago, it is so much easier to clean the space from outside. Now, when I'm doing long distance like that, for the most part, all I need is your address and your name, and I'll find you, because our essence, our energy goes with us everywhere.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, I can't go just straight off of names because we don't all have a unique name.
There could be
there's
10,000
there's
Bill
several
Smiths in
of
that
them.
area.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
So I have to have an address so that way I'm more pinpointed of
Right.
what location I'm going after. To me, that's always been fun. I love spirits and stuff. I love clearing things like that. But then I grew up, and to me, that was just playing. Kids would go out and play video games and stuff,
Right.
and I would go play with spirits. I honestly say, and I've always said I probably spend more time talking to dead people than I do living people, because I spend so much of my time out in La La Land, per se, doing work.
Do you have medium abilities?
I would say no, but then my definition of a medium is totally different than what people look at a medium. I have patients and clients that are mediums. Today's definition of medium is somebody that talks to the dead people for you. To
Right.
me, I look at it as more somebody that honestly lets that spirit come in them and talk through them. There's just no way I would ever let somebody jump in my driver's seat. Maybe I want my car back.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is my car.
Right.
And that's what happens so often. People just check out. Well, if something's floating by, then it checks in, and you're wondering where your car went.
Right.
But yes, as far as actually talking to people and stuff like that, as far as out there, then yes, ma'am. I guess I'd have to answer yes to that
Right.
question. But my whole life, I've always just wanted to just try to help people. And I have very little patience. I want things done right then. So I look at the quickest, fastest way I can to get this problem resolved and taken care of. And what normally it's and the main reason it really got me into doing what I do is because when I had personal issues that I couldn't fix, I would have to go see a shaman hypnotherapist. Well, they want to work on one issue at a time.
Right.
And charge you way too much.
Right. Because then you have multiple sessions.
Yes. And I was a basket case. I would have been dead and broke way before I got fixed.
Right.
So I had to figure out more of a rapid way to actually peel off my onions so I could get to my core.
Right.
And I think what really drove me most of my life was my depression, because I wanted to make sure when I left this world I didn't have to come back. People always ask me.
Hell, you for sure didn't want to come back depressed.
No, ma'am. People always ask me, do you believe in reincarnation? It's like, well, whether I believe in it or not, I'd like to get it right this time so I don't have to come back.
Exactly.
Just in case, let's go ahead and get this taken care of.
You don't want to linger. When it's time to go, cross over.
But basically, I like to say the only difference between me and a shrink is I don't ask you to talk about it. We knew what that pot of crap smelled like years ago.
Yeah.
Now, my initial training was in DNA reconstruction, and you actually go in and you attach into the DNA, and that's actually how you know who you're working with and all that. I have found over years that it's a lot easier just to go off your birth name. Because that's what you came in here with.
Right.
So then I get you, and that only takes like a few minutes to lock into you instead of like years. And the main difference between me and a hypnotherapist is you're consciously awake. But I have found it's a whole lot easier when people are coherent and conscious of what's going on for them to trust you than it is when they're not. Most of our walls are put up by our subconscious, and if I can't get that inner self to trust me and work for me, I get all the credit, but they do all the work. Your body, your soul, you actually fix yourself. All I do is show you where your false programming is, where we are just like a computer, is my easiest way to put it. We become what we're programmed to be. And as our programming from our society, from our family lives, from pre-birth trauma, from what we experienced in our mother's womb, from spoken words to inherited tendencies from our grandparents. And those are actually programs that actually truly make up who we become, our personality, just our walls in general that keep us from becoming what we're supposed to be.
Right. If someone has personality disorders like bipolar or schizophrenia or something like that, can you work with them? Is that some...
Sadly, most schizophrenias and stuff are actually gifted people. Most
Absolutely.
people that are actually diagnosed crazy were actually just too honest. Because they really do hear things. They really do see things. Most of that really does exist.
And if a doctor can't wrap his head around it.
And then after years of being medicated, then we're not really coherent as to what's real and what's not anyway, and then it becomes just overwhelming. And there is a war going on out there. And the brighter your light is, then the more evil's going to try to put you out.
Right.
The way I tell my friends, it's like, they're like, well, how come I attract so much negativity? How come I attract so much crap into my life? And I'm like, imagine lighting a candle in a dark lit room. You're going to attract every bug and insect from miles around. I mean, so you're like a yard light out there glowing. You're going to attract some stuff. I mean, and the brighter that light is, the more the evil tries to put you out. I mean, it's just, you got to rise above it. And but that's the thing with most schizos. Now, as far as bipolar and mental disorders, I think it's because most of our life we're never taught to love ourselves.
Right.
We're never taught anything about ourselves.
And the medications that they prescribe, I think, just makes it so much worse. And they hate the way the medication makes them feel.
And then we started off in our school systems. God, you take into consideration that almost 60 to 70% of all of our children right now are on ADD medications in one form or another.
It's horrible.
Because the school systems make more money for every child that's medicated. So then they grow up being addicted to pills. I mean, if you feel this way, take a pill.
And then you wonder why there's school shootings.
Yes. I mean, and like I've always said, you just think you're depressed till you get on antidepressants. Most of the medications are either nerve blockers or block our senses.
Right.
So then we go numb and we can't feel anything.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then of course you're not happy because you can't feel nothing. I mean, so most of the time people end up just their symptoms and their side effects, and we battle those for so long that we honestly think those are our problems.
Right. More people, I think nowadays, are coming to the realization that they need to try to fix the problem instead of medicating the problem.
Instead of just trying, yes.
Don't cover it up.
Yeah, let's not
just
try to
fix
just keep doctoring the symptoms.
Right.
What's causing me to do this? But our whole generation is evolving in evolution. I mean, the kids that are coming up today, we're just more connected. I mean, they're just honestly.
Right.
I mean, whether it's the ending of times or what, but either way, their eyes are open to be more. They want to know what makes things tick.
Right.
I mean, instead of believing something just because they're taught it, they question everything, and that's awesome. But as far as the intuitiveness and people actually seeing things, but even in the Bible it talks about the lifting of the veils and how the conscious is going to evolve and everything. And honestly, I think people are just going to have to evolve or perish. I mean, because we're going to have to evolve and to accept that there's more to life than this little old box that we've been taught. I mean, it's like for centuries they believed the world was flat.
Right. What else do you do, Billy Joe? You're just
my specialty is
knowledge.
in emotional therapy. Like I said, I climb into our subconscious. I pull out all your deep, dark secrets. I remember that I had this one little lady, and she was going from my mom's room to my room, and my mom reads in the eyes, and so she tells you all about the physical body. And the little lady was like, "So you're going to climb in my eyes and tell me all of what's going on too?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm going to climb in your soul and tell you all your deep, dark secrets." And she's like, "Can I change my mind?" And I'm like, "It can't be that bad."
I don't know if I want you to know all of it.
And most people, we don't.
Right.
Because that's something that's ours.
Right.
But until we clear out those emotional tendencies, that
Yeah.
barriers, those blockages, then we will never truly
Absolutely.
evolve and overcome the problem that we're facing at the moment. And most of the time, it's just one little simple thing that might have happened to us that affects us throughout our entire life.
Right.
Now, there are some belief that all of our physical problems create our emotional tendencies, that the physical actually messes up, and that's actually what causes us our emotions. Now, after 20 plus years of doing emotional therapy, I've found that we felt that way years emotionally, way before we developed the physical problems that corresponds with it. So I use emotional therapy into anything from broken bones to muscle problems to organ problems. No matter what physical problem I'm working on, I also work along with the emotion that corresponds with it.
Right.
So that way, no matter what's causing it, you figure it out.
Right.
Because I like quick fixes. I mean, I always laugh and tell people when I'm working on them, if I can't prove to you before you get off the table why I want you to go home and do something, I don't expect you to go home and do it. Our whole lives we go home and try stuff for 30 days because somebody said so.
Right.
Well, obviously it's not going to work. Or it would work right then. But we do anything from feng shui, energy work. My main focus, honestly, is the driver within the car. I like to talk about the body as a car because it's easier for people to understand. Now, if you fix the driver, which is the soul, then the soul will fix the car. At the end of every year, we have a 90% new body. Our bodies are constantly fixing themselves. The good Lord created us to fix ourselves. I mean, we were not created to have body parts removed. We were not created to have to go to the doctor once a week. Our bodies are created to fix themselves. I mean, we've been around thousands and thousands of years, and they still don't know how we work. I mean, it's the greatest invention on the planet. I mean, our bodies and our minds, the human mind. I mean, you figure some of the smartest people in our history only use 12 to 13% of their brain. Well, if you could figure out a way to tap into the rest of that, there are just limitless options. I mean, there is nothing you couldn't do. Our mind is one of the most powerful things on this planet. We just don't use it.
You and your mom, you work together. You don't advertise. Explain that.
We like to put it in God's hands. My mom was is. We consider ourselves very spiritual people. But we've always had two basically prayers. One, don't send us anybody we're not supposed to help. And two, if you let them walk in the door, you show us how to fix them. And we've taken inoperable cancer patients and fixed them within 6 to 9 months. And the reason why we do that, though, with that prayer is because it does put it in God's hands. And my mom will literally go in a fast prayer meditation and start yelling. It's like, how dare you let this person come to me and not show me how to fix them?
Right.
And that's the main reason, because if we solicited, then we would be out there trying to bring these people in there. Well, maybe they're not ready to be fixed.
Absolutely.
Maybe God's not ready for us to fix these people's problems.
And what I find fascinating about that is you don't advertise, but yet people come from all over.
I think we've had them flying from Washington, California. I think the farthest I ever had my drive was 13 hours Farthest phone call I ever got was Indonesia. A doctor trying to fly us to Indonesia to work on his kid. They were wanting to do immediate kidney transplants. The way I looked at it, if they couldn't fly him out of the country, then I wasn't about to fly into the country, and I didn't even ask them how much they were going to pay us. It just,
Right.
No, I'm not leaving the country. But it's
But for them to know all the way from Indonesia to
word of mouth, it is
Arkansas,
just, it's
yes.
amazing.
And so it means that what you're doing is working and it's effective.
Over, I want to say probably 60 to 70% of all of our patients are in the medical field. I mean, everybody that comes to us, most everybody's in, because they know their routes. I mean, they don't go under the knife. If they come down with cancer, they don't do chemo and radiation. They look for alternative options.
Right. They don't want to mask it. They don't want to prolong it. They don't want a pill to cover it up. They want to
treat
fix it.
Um,
Yes.
And it reminds me of this one gentleman. He came to us. He was having heart problems. Well, we were working on his kidneys. We were like, well, we fix your kidneys, you're not going to have heart problems. Well, he left out there just laughing. They need to put people out of business or quack. And he made it to his cardiologist, and he noticed his doctor wasn't laughing. He said, well, don't you agree that they should put people like that out of business? And he said, no, they're absolutely right. If we fixed your kidneys, you wouldn't have a heart problem. He said, well, I've been coming to you for 5-6 years. And
Why didn't you do that?
And he said, well, you wanted somebody to treat your heart. He said, you would have laughed at me just like you laughed at them. Because that's what we've grown accustomed to. We want Band-Aids. I mean,
Right.
if our knee's hurting us and we go to the doctor and they try to tell us it's coming off of our lower back, we're probably not going to go back. Our knee hurts us.
Yeah.
Where we treat more the cause and not the symptoms. You come to us with a knee pain, we don't really care that your knee's hurting. We want to figure out what's causing the knee to hurt.
And it could be scar tissue from somewhere in your body.
There's so many things that actually lock us up and affect us. It's like an example I give everybody. It's like you can take your tires in and get them changed every week, but until you fix actually the rotation and actually the alignment of the car, then it's going to keep wearing.
If it's out of line,
Yes.
it's going to keep wearing the tires out.
Yep, and I mean, and that's it's like I've been to massage school 3 times. I've studied under a chiropractor. I've studied therapy, pressure points. I've studied the best method. I've studied everything I could afford to study, and most of it's just buff and puffs. They're not actually fixing the problem.
Right.
It's like I could easily hang a massage license up on my wall and do massages all day long, but you're going to have to come back to me next week because your back still hurts.
Right. Right. Makes it feel good for that afternoon.
Where I want to actually fix that problem. Every day we wake up for the rest of our life, we're going to have to deal with certain amounts of BS, drama, just stress that today throws at us.
Right.
But we shouldn't have to deal with yesterday's stuff too. We should have a new plate. So I like to go in and empty our cup out of all of our old baggage.
Absolutely.
So that way we have a fresh new start. Because we miss out on so much in life from just everything that we're holding on to.
Right.
And the sad part is it's amazing. I'm going to say at least 80% of everything that I work on is actually inherited from our grandparents into the 7 generational curse. I mean, almost 70 to 80% of everything we physically go through isn't even our issues to go through. And which I really love, because until I started working on that, I honestly looked at it as working on one person at a time. I used to always laugh and say I'm fixing the world one soul at a time. Where now I actually get to do it one family at a time. And it's so awesome. I've actually got to see that like right there in front of me, because I mean it makes sense in paper.
Right.
But to think that you could actually go back and work on somebody when they're in their mother's womb and take care of everybody in their line, it's just it's like, come on, really? But I mean, more than one time I'll say I'll be working on a mother, and I'll come to something that's inherited, and I'll go ask her kids to be there, and I'll go ask her kids if they're feeling the same pain. And sure enough, they'd be hurting in the exact same place, and they'd be like, well, how'd you know? And I'll be like, oh, no big deal. And I'll go in there, and I'll clear it out of the mother, and I'll go back in there, and their pain's gone. Well, here they're on the other side of the house. I mean, so it's, to me, that's just awesome, because now I'm actually going to get to truly see a difference in my lifetime. I mean, I'm actually truly making a difference, because to me, that's what it's all about anyway.
Right.
I mean,
I know they're smudging. Can you give a tip of someone that is just wanting to do like a routine cleanse of their home?
There's multiple different ways, but what I recommend and what is the best, especially, I mean, it works guaranteed. I don't like sage smudging. I don't like things like that unless you're just trying to build up your energy.
Okay.
Now, if you're just trying to actually just clear it out from today's like excess or whatever,
Right. I'm thinking like clear out any negativity.
the
Just
best,
clear it
safest way, you need a cast iron skillet, rubbing alcohol, and sea salt. You take a fourth a cup of rubbing alcohol and a fourth a cup of sea salt and put it in your cast iron skillet and light it on fire. Now I'm going to pick your book up real quick.
Okay.
Now you want to make sure that you walk backwards with this. And the reason being is because you're going to have flames shooting up.
Right. You're
And
not going to have any eyebrows.
if you walk forward, the flame's going to come in you.
Right.
But what happens is any spirits, any negativity, any essence like that jumps into the flame and gets trapped in the salt. And then you just take it outside and dump it. That is the overall best I have ever found.
So does it keep a certain flame until you get to certain areas of the
Yes.
house where there could be some
And then
negative
it
energy, and then
shoots
it
up.
just shoots up?
I've seen
That's
it go all
interesting.
the way from the floor to the ceiling and be bound, and people are like, "Oh my God!" And get down and not even be a
Whoa.
black spot. I mean, it is.
So you're
just-
going to want to wear like a.
It is amazing. I
mittens and-
recommend a oven mitt or something on your hand,
Right.
so your arm doesn't get tired,
Right.
because you're going to be holding up this skillet. Now your wrist will not give out. This arm will get tired, so you want to make sure you're resting it that
So
way.
you just like walk from one end of the house to the other.
And make sure you get all
backwards.
the corners, open up all your closets, any of your cabinets, anything that something might jump into and hide.
Right.
Because it will try to like stay there. And then to just elevate it for a simple just elevation or something, the sage works amazingly. Another one of the best things I've ever found is just like pots and pans, and just that banging. Almost like a drum, and just go through, and that causes such a high frequency pitch, that bang, that it literally breaks loose the stagnant energy in the house, so that way it can actually clear. And that's actually one of the easiest ways to just.
Is that when you open up a window or a door and help to release it?
And with sage and stuff, you always want to make sure you open up a door or a window, so that way the energy that you're pushing out of your house has somewhere to go.
Right.
Now, we would think it'd go right through the glass, but I mean, and another way, like one of the safest, easiest ways I've ever found, like to even make sure that your energy stays clean, is they recommend you sleep with a glass of water by your bed. And then
With
whatever.
a little sea salt in there, or is it just water?
Either way, the salt would actually help it hold into the water,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd probably recommend the salt because you'd be a lot less likely to drink it when you wake up.
Right.
Now,
Because
see, a lot of people keep that water
Yeah.
there, but then they drink it.
Yeah.
Well, then whatever negativity is in you jumps out into that water, and you put it right back in the morning.
Right.
Where if you actually made some salt water, you're probably not going to take a drink of it when you wake up.
Right.
So that would actually, but that's one of the easiest ways, just to.
And how about sprinkling a little sea salt on your carpet before you vacuum?
That's good for a lot of things. We used to actually go through and on cases like that, if you're going to use salt for cleansing, I almost recommend just keeping it in bowls or plates
Okay.
throughout your house, and then just occasionally dump it out like every couple of days, which is also awesome because then you can tell how much moisture you have in your house. Because a lot of times we get mold, mildew, and things like that, but we're not aware of it.
Right.
Now, if you take a bowl of salt and you stick out, and within a day, 2 days, it's all wet and clumpy, well, then that's all the extra moisture and stuff in your house, and you probably need to get a salt rock or something on that end.
Right.
But the salt is an excellent, it collects negativity. It really does. Salt's a good purifier. And actually, even one of the easiest ways to clean your aura field, now that I'm actually thinking about it. Rose water builds up your aura. It carries the highest vibration of any other plant. And that's why they say you never want to take a shower or bath and then immediately go out into public, because it depletes your aura.
Right.
And it takes an hour to build your aura back up. Now you can take like a little spray bottle with some salt water in it, because a lot of times we'll be around negative people, and it will literally just make our skin crawl, and even when we get away from them, it's just like we just can't get this off of
Yeah.
us because we've literally absorbed their negativity.
Right.
Now you can take that little spray bottle of salt water and spray yourself down, and that literally will clean your aura. and then take I like the rose water, something. I love the rose because it does build it back up.
Right.
Spray down with the rose water, and then it builds your aura field back up. But that is one of the safest, quickest, easiest ways to literally get a good aura cleaning, just as far as our essence goes.
So first spray down with salt water, and then a little bit later go in with the rose
Almost,
water.
yeah, even immediately afterwards, either way. So that way you're not open and vulnerable to anything else that might be around you. Because in today's society, if you actually live in the real world, which most of us have to live in the real world, well, then we are constantly bombarded by negative people, negative energy, just that we can't.
You could be pumping gas and
Yes,
just
ma'am.
run into people that have.
And the older we get, the more naturally we keep our mouth shut anyway. We don't just tell somebody get out of our face because they got a bad attitude.
Right.
So then we literally hold that in. And
Yeah.
it becomes our problem, not their problem.
Right.
Where if we were all outspoken and be like, get out of my bubble, then it would probably be all right.
Yes.
But we just
This is positive right here.
Yeah, we just can't do
Right.
that. I mean, I could do that when I was in my 20s, but the older I get, I can't do it.
Right.
I mean, the sympathetic side of me, I guess.
How many years have you been doing this?
I started into it when I was 15, started studying it at 12. Been doing it most part for a career since I was 16, so 24 years.
Wow.
And even when I would take vacations, this is one of those things, it goes with me everywhere. I mean, I taking vacations, I call them vacations, but I went out and worked on a drilling rig for a little over a year, and I'll go pipeline, and I call it vacation because I got to get out and work and sweat.
Right.
But I still take my profession with me. You get sick, and I'll be over there stirring up your vomit to tell you what was wrong with you. I mean, I just can't. I sit in a restaurant and I see people and I know I can help them. I walk into convenience stores and every time I see somebody, I see where they're hurting. I see how they're feeling. And I want to help. And a lot of times I'll even randomly just give advice to strangers. And I know they don't do it, but I have to tell them. I can't see them hurting and know that I could help them and not tell them something to go do to help their pain. Even though 90% of the time they don't do it because some whack stranger just came up and was like, oh, you should do this. And like, who are you?
Yeah.
But that's just, I mean, my nature. I just can't help it. I mean,
Right.
if I see somebody hurting, I have to try to help. I have to.
Well, Billy Joe, this has been very interesting
Well, thank you.
and some great information. I hope a lot of people, I know that people, whether it be from mental disorders or whatever, I hope they seek the right help instead of taking a magic pill thinking that it's going to
Yes, because,
fix
I mean, everything can be fixed. Whether it's a true, what they diagnosed as a mental problem or emotional problems or physical pain.
Right.
I mean, we're taught our whole lives that that's just life, you got to deal with it. Well, that's not how it is. I mean, you can actually have a happy, healthy life. We deserve that.
Yeah.
I mean, the good Lord didn't put us here to have mental disorders or to hurt and to have pain all the time. We weren't created to live like that. We were programmed that we never had any other options, that the only thing we can do for sadness or mental disorders is go to some shrink who's just going to want us to stir up our pot of crap every day,
absolutely.
but not ever give us anything to actually work through it. So I think they should at least give out advice. It's like a lot of people, what I'd recommend is I'll have them keep 2 journals, one a happy journal and one a bad journal. Because a lot of things in our daily lives, we can't talk about them. I mean, and most of the time it has to do with our immediate family, our spouses, the ones that are closest to us.
A bad day at the office.
I mean, we can go out and take crap off of strangers all day long, and we come in and we take it out on people that love us.
Right.
So, I mean, I recommend everybody have 2 journals. Write down all your bad stuff in one, all your good stuff in the other. Burn your bad one. Burn it daily, burn it weekly.
Yeah.
If you have a traumatic thing that happened to you that you can't discuss with nobody, because our worst things we will take to our grave because we just can't.
Right.
We can't let it out.
I think that's where it helps me with the GARD, the GARD.
Yes.
No gossip, no anger, no resentment, and no drama.
Yeah, because we have to let it go. We have to get rid of it.
Every day, I let it go, and like I said, 15 years at least. I haven't been this happy, and I don't know when. I just feel like 2020 is going to be my best year yet.
Yes, no, and it's all uphill once we actually even start this journey. And one thing that you should, and everybody, especially when we start a spiritual journey and we start trying to do right and we start trying to better our lives. Every time you try to climb up that ladder to do better, there's going to be another force there trying to knock you back down.
Right.
And you just have to just realize that what it is. It's just a force trying to knock you back down, and to just rise above that.
Right.
Because the evil's always going to try to stop us.
Absolutely.
I mean, always. I mean, there's definitely a war going on out there, and they don't play by the rules.
Right.
I mean, they really don't.
But the good forces
Oh, yes.
can outweigh the bad forces.
Yep. The best saying I've ever heard, it was, from the light, we create our darkness, but from within our darkness, we become the light.
Yeah.
And it truly is, because in our strive to be brighter and all that, we pull in a lot of negativity, a lot of darkness, but our eyes become aware and open more to what's around us.
Right.
But the true beauty within us only comes from our darkest moments. When we're at our breaking points, our worst things that we've been through in life are honestly what create and make us the best person we are.
Right.
Where if we wouldn't have experienced those faults or those negative, we would never have actually
That's
grown into
absolutely
who we
right.
are today. I mean, so
Your struggles gives you strength.
it is. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for coming today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you for tuning in to Daily Living. Please support our sponsor, renovationtea.com. You'll find a large variety from daily to specific herbal remedy teas, all certified organic and fair trade. Use DL10 to get a 10% discount. You can find details in the description below. If you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode.